Welcome to Cardboard Chemistry, where we talk about everything and anything related to Magic the Gathering. I'm the beaker in your speaker, a test tube dude, the goat in a lab coat, just a slippery boggle in goggles. I'm your host, MTG Labman, and without further ado, let's get into our topic for today. Alright, today's topic, everyone, kind of just want to address the elephant in the room. Wizards recently announced on a live stream that they may be considering changing up the hybrid mana cost rules to be an or instead of an and. So let's take a moment, hop back in the Wayback Machine, back to 2005 with Ravnica City of Guilds, where they first introduced the hybrid mana cost. For those newer to the game, hybrid mana would be in the mana pip instead of it being black for swamp or white for plains. It would be a slashed symbol that shows both black or white, which would mean that you could pay either black or white for the mana cost. Hybrid mana has appeared here and there throughout Magic history since 2005. And in my personal opinion, the reason why I think Wizards is considering this is we are heading back to Lorwyn next year for Lorwyn Eclipsed, and Shadowmoor, the third block in the Lorwyn set, was very, very focused on hybrid mana. So right now, as things stand in Commander, a card with a hybrid mana cost cannot be used in a single color. I'm going to use the card Unmake as an example for most of this discussion. Unmake is a 3 mana instant, 3 pips. All 3 pips are hybrid Orzhov, so white or black. And it's just exile target creature. Right now, as things currently stand, this can be used in an Orzhov deck or any deck that currently runs both white or black mana. With the changes to the hybrid, if Wizards would move forward with making this decision, it would be able to be run in mono black decks and mono white decks, right? So I run a mono black Zuifit deck. That's my deck of memories. There's an earlier podcast on that. I also run a mono white Light Paws deck. With that being said, if the changes would occur, I could run this in both decks, but honestly, I don't feel like I would. I just don't feel like it's right to run in either of those decks. But this is a card that could. I mean, this is a pretty simplistic card in and of itself. But if they move to the or, you kind of run into a couple little hiccups that I think add confusion to the game. So an example for this would be Rias the Redeemed, who is a hybrid green or white, could be run in both a mono white deck and a mono green deck, because Rias's activated abilities are also both hybrid. 2 and a hybrid Selesnya, tap, create a 1/1 green and white elf creature token. 4 and 2 hybrid Selesnya, for each creature token you control, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Right now, you can't run Rias in a Lathril Blade of the Elves deck because of the current roles in Commander. If it were to change that it would only count as a green card or only count as a white card, you could theoretically run this in Lathril, which for elf ball players would be a highlight. More ways to get elves onto the battlefield, but we run into a confusion with a card that is the exact same mana cost, Deathrite Shaman, which is a hybrid Golgari, right? Hybrid black white or black green, which you couldn't run in just a mono green or a mono black deck because of its activated abilities. Pay one black. It's not a hybrid, so you couldn't run it in a mono green deck. And its third ability, mono green and tap, you couldn't run it in a mono black deck. So this comes down to kind of like a principle. I've heard Tomer, Budget Commander, talk about it, that multicolored spells are kind of hard to design for a Wizards design group. Hybrid mana is easier because you don't have to worry about the color restriction. And where I get that that's a good philosophy, making it easier to design. I think it ultimately does lead to reducing the complexity and the nuance of the game. Right. You run if you run an Orzhov deck and everything is hybrid mana symbols, do you really need to run dual lands? Do you need to run anything besides a basic? Do you need to run a command tower? Right, if everything moving forward is hybrid, or designs moving forward turn to more hybrid mana values and mana symbols, mana costs, I feel like you start losing the nuance of deck building. Right. Currently, if I'm running my Orzhov deck, my Karlov deck, and I don't have a black mana source, it limits part of my deck. Where as a deck builder, as a person that's been playing the game for approaching 2 decades now, I can blame not having a black mana source to cast a spell on my deck building ability. Where if everything goes hybrid, we're no longer focusing on deck building. We're making deck building easier. You lose the nuance in deck building and learning how to build a deck, how to properly calculate your mana and look at pips when you're building out your mana base. If everything's a hybrid pip, you don't need to worry about how many swamps you're running in the deck versus how many planes you're running in the deck. You can throw in any mana type to cover that base. Also, I mean, if everything moves to hybrid, you lose what's the purpose of buying a Godless Shrine or a Stomping Grounds, or these pain lands, your fetch lands, your multicolored lands, your non-basics. I mean, if I have a deck completely comprised of hybrid Izzet symbols, do I need the red? Do I do I need the blue, depending on what side I'm going for. Um, and that's kind of my stance on things. But I see where Wizards is trying to go. Um, if you look at what's been spoiled for Lorwyn Eclipse so far, um, they're reintroducing the elemental incarnations. Right now we have Deceit, which is a 6 mana value, 4 colorless, 2 hybrid Dimir blue and black. When this creature enters, if 2 blue was spent to cast it, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. When this creature enters, if 2 black was spent to cast it, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. And it has Evoke 2 Dimir hybrid. So I see where they're going. This is kind of evident of why they're talking about going this way, I think. Right, Evoke is an old mechanic from the Lorwyn block. You can evoke out a creature for the evoke cost, and then you sacrifice it once it enters the battlefield. So with Deceit, if you cast it for its full mana value, if you cast it for the 6, you can use blue and black to cast it, and you can get both abilities. But with the way the hybrid works for its evoke cost, if you pay 1 blue, 1 black, you get no benefit for the creature entering the battlefield. Unless you have another permanent that counts when a creature enters the battlefield. So you would need to either pay 2 blue or 2 black. So it does give it kind of a benefit to run in a monocolored deck, because if you're worried about an opponent discarding a card, you can run in a mono black. If you're worried about bouncing a permanent, you could run it in mono blue. So I see why they're trying to lean towards maybe making hybrid. But I go back to the Deathrite Shaman argument, where you're trying to simplify things by making hybrid an ore, but then you have cards that are initial hybrid mana costs that don't follow that pattern, that logic. The way things are right now, I mean, you look at a card, you can kind of tell if it can go in the deck or not. I mean, all of these hybrid cards, half the border is one color, half the border is another color. And as soon as you kind of see that right now, if a new player was coming into the game and they're building a Dimir deck, right? Okay, I can add this card, but if I'm building a mono blue deck and I see, hey, this card has black in its mana cost, I can't run into the deck, right? And that's a lot easier to explain to a new player versus, oh, this is hybrid, so it counts as a blue card or a black card. So if you're building mono black, you can throw it in this deck, and I just think it adds not only more confusion and muddies the waters a little bit, but it also adds just a dulling down of deck building strategies, and it adds just another complexity to an already complex and established format. I mean, I started playing in 2007. right when Lorwyn came out, and over the years I've learned the Commander format. Commander is my most played format now, and it just feels like a change could overall impact the game negatively. Um, I mean, granted, 20 years of ingrained play and familiarity with the game speaking, so it just seems like it would be odd, right, to play a mono white deck and run a hybrid card in it, right? It's for me it's more of just a feel of the game. It doesn't feel like I have no issue with hybrid cards in their paired colors. I know Veggie Wagon was talking about um, having the companions that came out in Ikoria as potential reason for um, the or clause for hybrid mana. But I mean, there's only a few feasible ones there anyway. Right now in the Commander format, Gigantha is technically considered a 5 color permanent, where um, Lutri is banned because spell copying. Um, but in complete honesty and personal opinion, I think Commander is already a complex enough format for a new player to enter, where changing hybrid mana to make it an or just adds a another complexity, another cog in the deck building wheel, um, where it could lead new players to be confused, and that's my opinion. I mean, you guys can decide what you want. Um, I really hope Wizards just doesn't change it to an or and leaves it as an and, because there are thousands of cards in the game. Um, Building Commander, you're not really restricted on cards. Yeah, you have the Game Changer list and all that, but you have access to a vast swath of cards, and opening up hybrid mana is only going to open you up to a small portion of the entire history of Magic, where if leaving it as is, I don't see that as a huge detriment to the game and the gameplay experience. Standard players, I don't know. It might help those guys out. I don't play standard. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for your time. Hope everybody has a good day.